It's game one of the World Series featuring the Philadelphia Phillies and the Houston Astros. On the bump for the Philadelphia Phillies, going to be Aaron Nola. Facing him is likely AL Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander. We spoke to Connor Thomas of Locked On Phillies to break down game one of the World Series.
Appreciate you having me. And man, how could you not be doing great with the run that our Titans are on right now?
Absolutely incredible. The last time we spoke, they were actually on the verge of clinching a playoff spot. So it was the beginning of the month of September. Nothing was clinched yet. And actually, this whole run begins in Houston. And it's kind of funny that, the last regular season series there was in Houston and is now a preview of the World Series. And in that series, we saw Aaron Nola pitch one of his best games in the Phillies uniform to clinch a playoff berth for the team. What did you think what went through your mind when Aaron Nola was able to clinch that to help the team go to the postseason?
Well, it definitely felt like a weight lifted, and that's easy to say as a fan, but I'm sure it's an even heavier weight lifted for all of the players, especially the ones like Nola, like Rhys Hoskins, that have been here for years through multiple collapses late into September and sometimes even early October. So that was really comfortable. And Kale, it's the last time the Astros lost. They haven't lost since that October 3rd matchup with Aaron Nola. So now looking back at it, I feel even better about that being the clinching game because this team has proven they could handle Houston.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it set up a playoff matchup with the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, when you're talking about a team of destiny, I mean, the Cardinals really felt like they had that feel. You have Albert Pujols going on a run in September, able to hit 700 home runs. They're a team boasting Yadier Molina in the final year of his career and possibly Adam Wainwright as well. 3 possible future Hall of Famers going into their last playoff run. Definitely felt like it could have been a team of destiny in this playoffs. Then we get to St. Louis, game one of the first game of the NL wildcard series, and we get to the 9th inning. And what happens? A closer, Ryan Helsley for the St. Louis Cardinals, implodes. He has been unhittable for months, and the Phillies are able to tack on 6 runs in the 9th inning to take game one of the series. And obviously, a short 2-game series, the Phillies were able to capitalize. What did you think when the Phillies were able to pull off that incredible comeback in the 9th inning?
Yeah, maybe it was like a transfer of destiny almost because I feel the same thing you were feeling about the Cardinals. They had the storylines. They had 2 MVP candidates in Goldschmidt and Arenado. And then all of a sudden that 9th inning happened. You score 6 runs and it feels like, okay, well, all of that momentum transferred Philadelphia's way. They take care of business in game 2. And it kind of felt like that's where this team really started believing in themselves on a playoff level. Making it in is one thing, and that can give you a confidence boost. But winning against a team like St. Louis in a place like Busch Stadium that's called baseball heaven, that gives you all the confidence in the world. And, well, we've seen what they've done and taken off and running with it, and that being the Phillies.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it set up a matchup with the division rival Atlanta Braves in the National League Division Series. First time the Phillies had seen the Braves in the playoffs since that magical 1993 postseason run as well. And obviously the Braves had been, one of the best teams in our division, the division winner, and had shown, they had played us pretty well all season. But it came into, Atlanta. The Phillies are able to take game 1, split game 2. Obviously Atlanta is able to take the series, 2-2 back to Philadelphia, or 1-1 back to Philadelphia. But that game 3, Rhys Hoskins hits a monster home run, a bat spike that will probably be played in Philadelphia for forever, really, to really just take the roof off the series, off of Spencer Strider, and really just kind of ignite the Phillies for the rest of the series.
Yeah, it was incredible. You know what's funny, Kale? I'm thinking about this run that the Phillies have been on, and probably most opportunistic was that Atlanta series where you had huge moments. And the Phillies seem to come up big in all of them. I think about the 2008 run, 2009 leading up to their last World Series appearance. And I can't think of this many huge, impactful home runs and at-bats and moments. Like those teams won games, of course, enough to get there in 2008 to win it. But this team, it feels like every single game, there's a gigantic home run. There's a Rhys Hoskins moment. We're going to talk about another one that just happened in the series with San Diego. But yeah, that was the story of that series with the Atlanta Braves. Just really timely, big hits and big at-bats from this team, specifically in those games they played at Citizens Bank Park.
And it was across the board. Brandon Marsh hit a big 3-run shot there in game 4 of that series to help clinch it. And it's all up and down the lineup. Bryson Stott had an incredible at-bat that led to that Rhys Hoskins home run. So this team is just really hitting all cylinders, take care of business against the Braves. They match up against the San Diego Padres. The Padres obviously have taken out the Dodgers, the winningest team in the National League this year. Kind of felt like, they're a little bit on a ride as well. So we're out in San Diego, and in game 1, man, the Phillies are able to take that game, split game 2, and then it's coming back to Philadelphia. Almost the same recipe for Atlanta. And then, man, it was nothing but fireworks when the Phillies got back into Philadelphia.
It definitely was. They look like an unbeatable team at home right now, and this has been the recipe. Obviously, not the wild card because that entire series was in St. Louis. Both of those games were, but in the longer series, starting on the road and knowing they have games back at home, split the first two, come back to Philadelphia, and end the series because they're so darn good at home. So, yeah, it worked against Atlanta and it worked against San Diego, and we saw the fire this team plays with in front of their home crowd just over this past weekend.
And we'll jump to the clinching game, NLCS Game 5. I mean, it was incredible. Like you had said, Rhys Hoskins, another big home run, 2-run shot to really start the scoring in that game and really give the Phillies some confidence. But I mean, it is the Bryce Harper home run that I think is legendary, absolutely incredible, and will go down in Phillies history forever. Bottom of the 8th inning, really questionable managing decision by San Diego's Bob Melvin, not putting in his left-handed reliever, Josh Hader, leaving in Robert Suarez to face Bryce Harper, who was one of the hottest hitters in the postseason so far. And an incredible matchup. I think everyone is pointing at a changeup that Bryce Harper laid off in the middle of that at bat to say, all right, he was really locked in. He knew what pitch was coming and able to hit that fastball into left field. And as Scott Franzke said, absolute bedlam at the bank.
It totally was. And to go back to that decision you were talking about to not go to Hader, it kind of reminds me, we're going back a couple years, but the Orioles had a situation where they had Zach Britton, who had been the best reliever in baseball all year. And in an elimination game, they go to Ubaldo Jimenez, a starter who just wanted to get some innings, and they lose that game. It seems like in those moments, managers can really overthink the simplest choice. And Bob Melvin did it there. Credit to Rob Thompson. He hasn't done it for the Phillies, and that's another thing going their way. And then, well, it still takes Bryce Harper being the best player on the planet to come through in that spot. But, hey, we have the best player on the planet right now in Philadelphia, and he's wearing number 3.
And the Phillies were able to clinch their postseason, their World Series berth that day. And then the Houston Astros still had to beat the New York Yankees in the last game of their series. Able to sweep the Yankees, haven't lost a game in this postseason so far. So the Houston Astros are on an absolute roll. What are your feelings about this Astros team coming into this World Series matchup against the Phillies?
They're super talented. They really are. They're the odds-on favorite to win it, and they fully deserve to be. That doesn't mean the Phillies can't beat them, though. And there's something that I look at. I know this Astros team has been here a bunch, but this specific year's team, and it's a different dynamic every year. There's new guys every year. They haven't lost the playoff game yet. Who knows what their reaction to if they lose game 1 and face adversity for the first time, what that's going to be. And I also see a team that's balanced and consistent when you look at the Houston Astros, but the Phillies could have, I don't know, 3 of the best 5 players in the series when you look at Harper, Wheeler, Nola. That's enough to put them in contention against anybody, including a 100-plus game winner like the Houston Astros.
Some of the consensus that I've seen so far is that experts believe that the Houston Astros are deeper in pitching than the Phillies, but the Phillies might have a little bit better of an offense. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, see, the deepness of the pitching, it doesn't really affect all that much over a 7-game series. I get you have better guys to throw game 3, game 4, game 5, and figure that out. It gives you more options. But if you can't beat Wheeler and Nola, it doesn't matter. And the lineup, it certainly leans the Philadelphia Phillies way. Jose Altuve is batting below 100 for the Houston Astros. Some of their bigger name guys have not been all that great in the playoffs and haven't really needed to be because their pitching has been so good. But the Phillies lineup has been more powerful than them over the course of this postseason at least. And, Cale, over the regular season, the Phillies scoring about 0.1 more runs per game than the Houston Astros. So even over 162, a more dynamic offense here in Philadelphia.
So let's try to break down the series the best we can here. So game 1 looks like it's slated to be Aaron Nola on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, most likely going up against Justin Verlander, AL, likely Cy Young Award winner this year, sub-2 ERA for the Houston Astros. So what do you think about the team's matchup against Justin Verlander in the first game?
It'll be a tough one. The blueprint for beating Verlander is what the Mariners did. And I know the Mariners ended up losing that game, but getting on him early in the first playoff game that the Astros played this year. Now, the Astros came back because I think the Mariners pitching left a lot to be desired, rather. But the Phillies have a better bullpen. They have a better starter on the mound than anything Seattle trotted out there. And I really trust Aaron Nola to hold it down. So attack early. Hope that he's going to make some mistakes and hope that you can get to the admittedly very good, but not as good as Verlander, Houston bullpen.
as we had noted, the Phillies had played a regular season series here at Minute Maid Park to end the regular season, but this is their, their first time in, I think it was over 10 years as a team visiting the ballpark. Do you think that that has any sort of impact on what might happen throughout the series?
I really don't. You look at it, see, the only thing that kind of affects, because baseball is unique in that every park is built different. I guess the outfield defense is what I'd be looking at. But you look in the corners at Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos, they're not really running fast enough to get to the wall anyway on balls hit that far. So I'm not too worried about that. And Brandon Marsh is a guy that I'll have to check. I'd imagine he's played there more often than anyone on the Phillies with his time out there in the Los Angeles Angels organization. So no, I'm not too worried about it. Doesn't matter what crowd they line up against. All that matters is the 9 guys on the field. And that's my biggest concern.
So game 2 would also be at Minute Maid Park in Houston. Looks like it'll be Zach Wheeler slated for that one if Nola goes game 1. And at that point, Wheeler's going on an extra day's rest. And at that point, he's been pretty good so far this season on an extra day's rest. He would match up against Framber Valdez, who actually set up the MLB record for most consecutive quality starts this season. So he's been on a roll as well. What do you think about that game 2 matchup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's very prudent of Rob Thompson to go with Aaron Nola first and Zach Wheeler second because of that extra day of rest that you were just talking about. And remember, Zach Wheeler, he's been a workhorse through the playoffs, but he was injured list burdened until the end of the regular season, basically. So that extra rest could help. Valdez is incredible with those quality starts. But I'll point towards Yu Darvish, who is really good in multiple starts for the San Diego Padres. All that matters is you got to get him once or twice, and Wheeler will do his job. You could take care of business that way. So a quality start to me does not a win make. Valdez is incredible, and the Phillies have trouble against lefties. But I wouldn't look at that stat as one that you should overly worry about.
Game 3 of the World Series would line up to be Ranger Suarez for the Phillies, another NLCS hero actually coming out of the bullpen to get the final 2 outs there in the clinching game of Game 5. But he has started for the Phillies so far this postseason. One decent, one a little bit better after he got his footing and his first rough start in Atlanta there. And this is where the Houston Astros have a few different options here, right? So they've started Lance McCullers so far this postseason. He would line up to start a possible Game 3. So what are you thinking about that matchup? First game in Philadelphia, as we'd start 3 games at Citizens Bank Park here.
Yeah, I would guess it's going to be Lance McCullers who goes for Houston. If that's the case and Ranger Suarez matches up against him, of course, the pitching matchup leans toward McCullers statistically. But when you look at what Ranger Suarez did for the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLCS here at Citizens Bank Park, he's a different pitcher than what he was his outing in Atlanta in the NLDS. And I think that matters a lot to a young pitcher like Suarez. We forget sometimes when you see the numbers that he put up in 2021, just how much trouble young pitchers can get into in tougher spots. Because you see the sub-2 ERA and you're like, okay, the kid's already arrived. He had some struggles this year, and his first playoff start looked like it got to him a little bit mentally. His control wasn't great. Then his second one settled in and had the benefit of being at home. Again, I don't care who's on the mound when the Philadelphia Phillies are at Citizens Bank Park. They seem unbeatable, but Ranger Suarez is significantly more comfortable at home, it seems. That should help the Phils out in Game 3.
Now, Game 4, historically this postseason, the Phillies have shown us likely going to be a bullpen game, right? They don't have that super reliable fourth starter right now that they're going to. First round, they went Noah Syndergaard. Second round that they used the fourth starter was Bailey Falter. That one did not go as well as Noah Syndergaard's start. So what are you thinking that the Phillies are going to lean this for Game 4? And then also, where do you think the Astros go? They have a couple options as well in Jose Urquidy and Christian Javier, Luis Garcia. There's a few different ways they could go there as well.
Yeah, Urquidy, I think, would probably be the guy that I'd lean to, but this is just statistics. I think the Game 4, at least how Rob Thompson has handled it, and probably how you're going to see Dusty Baker handle it out there with Houston, is that it's going to be a feel of the series thing. Remember, Game 4 could be facing elimination for either of these teams. So it could be the Game 1 starter on a really short rest. Who knows how they play that all out? I'd imagine that'll be the biggest determinant, but Noah Syndergaard seems the likely, in a vacuum, pitcher for the Phillies to go with, simply because he's been in playoff situations before. He's the most veteran of the other available pitchers. And Bailey Falter just frankly didn't look good at all in his one start against the Padres, regardless of the Phillies coming back in that game. So I'd expect it to be Syndergaard in a vacuum, but we'll have to see how the series plays out.
Game 5 turns the series over, right? So you would have you'd have your Game 1 starters ready to go again. So you would assume it would be Justin Verlander and Aaron Nola. What are you thinking about Justin Verlander at Citizens Bank Park? Is that an advantage for the Phillies at all?
I don't know if there's anywhere on the planet that would be an advantage against Justin Verlander. Here's what I will say: 39 years of age. If he's got a taxing first start, and that would not be good news for the Phillies because that means he would have thrown significant innings in game one, which means they didn't get to him like we were just talking about. But I don't know how he holds up in that type of the stress of those innings. He's been really, really good this year, but he's nearly 40. There's only so much you have left in that arm, regardless of how good the regular season has been. So I'm interested to see how he would hold up 2 games in the same series.
So game six, you're looking like it would also slate to be Framber Valdez, Aaron Nola rematch in game six there. It would be back in Houston at this point if the series had continued. What are your thoughts? If the series goes back to Houston, do you think that knocks the Phillies out of any contention for this World Series crown?
See, normally I would say yes if I just looked at this year, but looking at last year, the Atlanta Braves went back to Houston for game six, and they absolutely dominated the Astros there on their way to clinching a World Series victory. I don't know if that plays in, but it does show that it can be done. And for the Phillies, I don't think they're afraid to go anywhere because they know they've got the toughest ballpark to play in. And that environment, that noise, and everything is something they're used to. It'll be tough. And the Astros are certainly better at home, like just about every team in Major League Baseball is. But I don't think the Philadelphia Phillies would be overly afraid to go back to Houston, especially with Wheeler available for game six.
Finally, game seven, right? So Ranger Suarez versus likely Lance McCullers. This is a guy with a lot of experience in these sort of situations. So I'm going to believe this is where the Astros are likely to go here. What would you think of a game seven matchup? Obviously, all arms on deck. I would expect Aaron Nola to be available out of the bullpen. You're going to have everybody going because there is no tomorrow. What would you think of that game seven matchup for the Phillies?
That's what it is. It's going to be your best 5 or 6 pitchers against Houston's best 5 or 6 pitchers and the best 9 batters you have available. So for the Phillies, just to list those guys, Alvarado will be ready to go. Dominguez will be ready to go. Ranger Suarez will probably make that start. But then you're going to have Syndergaard. You're going to have Nola. Who knows if you have Wheeler for a 3-out save if he throws, 70 pitches the day before or something like that. So it's all hands on deck. And don't be surprised if anybody makes an appearance out of the pen that day.
So we've gone game by game. We broke it down a little bit to the best of our abilities at this point, headed into the World Series. What's your gut feel? What do you think is going to happen in this World Series?
I'm feeling a very hard-fought, close series down to the wire. Not going 7 games, though. I've got Phillies in 6 because I think they're going to take 2 of the 3 games they play at Citizens Bank Park. I think they are going to split one of the first 2 games in Houston. And I think Zach Wheeler slams the door shut on his way to a World Series MVP trophy when you go ahead and get the opportunity out there.
It would be the first World Series trophy for the Phillies since 2008. The celebration would be absolutely tremendous. But you've actually been in a few of these celebrations so far. NLCS clinching wins, and in this locker room. What is the vibe like, and what is it like to be near these celebrations? How these guys are having fun?
Well, first off, it's a little bit wet. I've been getting sprayed by champagne, beer, and everything in between in there. And, they don't tell you how wet the media members get in the actual spray of everything. You just see the players get drenched. But I need to start bringing a poncho if they're going to keep winning. The vibe in the locker room is absolutely incredible. This team loves each other. More than that, they love playing for Rob Thompson. And you can just feel this team. It's weird because it's been almost a past 2-3 weeks phenomena of how much they've come together. That's not to say they weren't like this during the regular season, but winning brings it out of them. And they feel very much like that team of destiny, and they know it.
The World Series starts on Friday night at 8 o'clock on Fox 43. You can view all the World Series games on Fox 43. I think Connor and I can agree in one thing. Let's go Phillies.